Okay,
Quite a
so
long ramble there.
very interesting. What I want to know now is who is the who's your ideal reader, your target market?
I think my ideal reader, I mean, I originally wrote the stories with the ideal reader in mind being for children between 9 to 14 years. So they're at the top end of primary school, but the lower end of secondary school, because just think that that's a stage in children's lives where they're becoming a lot more socially aware, a lot more politically aware. And they're at that stage as well where they've developed a heightened sense of curiosity about the world around them. The books are aimed for people, children, young people who want to learn more about the topic on the British Empire, but find it perhaps difficult and an emotive topic to look at. And they're probably thinking about, well, where do I start? How can I get into this topic? And how can I link this to what I'm studying at school, for instance, or other historical topics that they might be interested in? It's for children and young people who are interested in looking at the past and trying to make those links between colonial history and Black history. Because quite often try to do we treat Black history as if it's just in Africa, and to a great extent, it certainly is. We also, in the past, have sort of treated Black history as if it's, well, it's just all about what the ancient Egyptians did and what they have achieved. But it's about looking at our history in a broader context, in a more global context, and that means looking at it through the lens of colonialism. And it is an emotive topic to look at. But I think through stories, through learning journeys, through timelines, it can help learners to put pieces together within a very large and intricate jigsaw puzzle, and also promote learning that's not necessarily in the classroom, but somebody who likes to learn about topics and who likes to learn about that particular subject through home learning. They like to go at their own pace. They like to read a story that can initiate and inspire an interest in something, and then they could in that particular topic, and then they could say, right, I'm going to now continue to find out about the history of Zimbabwe, or I'm going to try and now find out a little bit more about the early colonization of the Caribbean. So it's a balance. It's for that particular age group, but it's also for older people as well, who again want to learn more about Black history or about colonial history as part of a period of formal study, or if they want to learn more about it through home study. It's for people who have a passion for history, are committed to lifelong learning, and who want to learn about history not in a linear fashion, but through a greater global context. They like to join dots and make connections and learn about the past in a more thought provoking, imaginative, and engaging way.
Why is it so important that the stories in your book are told, to a large extent, this kind of colonial history?
Well, I think it's important to tell them because, first and foremost, I think if we just look at the history curriculum within our schools, I think it's very. I know certainly when I was at school, history teaching covered a lot of topics that were very Eurocentric. It was all about the Europeans, and there was a really big focus on English history as well, as there it still is today. When I was at school, we were learning about the Tudors and Stuarts, or we were learning about Queen Victoria, or we were learning a lot about local history. But There was never really, I mean, and I myself, and I'm sure you can identify this as people of color, there was never really anything within our history lessons at school that really focused on our history, or why the world was the way it was today, or why our parents and grandparents came over from the Caribbean and why we were here. There were so many gaps in our own experiences of our own history that were never validated through a history lesson in school. You never got stories of kings and queens and warriors of Africa. You never got told stories about African kingdoms like the Congo and the Mali kingdom and the Songhai kingdom, and we never got any of that. So there is a huge gap in our historical and cultural and identity, which needed to be recognized, I think. And I felt the need to write these stories because just to fill in that gap, really, and to validate the knowledge and the understanding and the topics that were missing, even from today's current curriculum for primary and secondary schools. And I mean, to some extent, that is being rectified now. There are topics relating to non European periods in history, but they are still optional. They're not mandatory, they're not compulsory in education. And so it's left to people like myself who are school leaders, who are in a position to be able to not only have the creativity and the transitional, transferable skills to write these things, but to be in a position to build a platform and to promote them, to read them directly to the children in the classrooms, and to develop a website, to build a podcast platform, and to be able to use my links within the education system, other head teachers that I know, other people who are in key positions, to be able to get these stories out there about periods in our history that are often overlooked, that are often forgotten about, that are not taught within the classroom, and to basically address that imbalance.
You're a deputy head teacher, is that correct?
That's right.
Right now, I want to link this in now based on what you said. And I'm particularly interested. Well, I want to raise a point about history, because history subject is that a subject that everyone learns at school, and you being a deputy head teacher and all, or it could be outside of it, but is your vision for the book for it to be these collections of books to be part of a curriculum? I think it would fit into the subject of history because these are historical books, and also possibly in libraries. Is that where you kind of vision your books to be?
Yeah, I do have a vision for it. I mean, with that, I want to see them in bookshops. I want to see them in libraries. I want to see them in classrooms. I want them read for bedtime at home. I'd like to see these stories, a series. Now, each of the stories actually at the back of the stories comes with its own timeline, its own what I call learning journey, which are key questions that get the reader thinking and having a conversation after they've read the story, and also looking at key vocabulary, key phrases within the story to help young children, to help young adults build their knowledge and understanding of the vocabulary in the stories and how it's used. So the stories themselves can be read as standalone, but my vision is to see these stories, as you've rightly said, become part of a wider history curriculum. And again, either to be used in a formal teaching program, or for the individual who is passionate about that particular topic to either reinforce what they already have learned about the topic, or to encourage them to, after they've read the story, it whet their appetite to learn more about something that was mentioned in the story, and then to encourage them to either go to the website storiestobetold.com or to embark on their own learning journey to further understand and build their knowledge about that topic. So yes, there are wider implications where I would like to take the series and put it on a wider platform and see it within the wider context of the curriculum that we currently have for history in this country and abroad as well, because a quarter of the world was a part of the British Empire. So it has the potential to be promoted across a wider platform. So there's a lot of scope. There's a lot of scope for these stories.